Hello and welcome everyone back for another season. This is season 2 of the Author's Tea. I am so excited because we did like 15 or 16 authors the last time. And I am super excited to be back for another go round. We have an amazing lineup this season of I think 14 or 15 authors again. And I am super excited to kick it off tonight with this beautiful woman that you see right here, Miss Shenita Hurt. I'm going to get into who she is in a moment and why we're here to talk about her book. But I wanted to just give you a little background on the Author's Tea for those of you who are not familiar with the Author's Tea. The Author's Tea is a platform that I created on last year because I wanted to create a space where women authors that I believe you should know, you would be able to meet them and learn more about their stories and just support them, because I believe that women should be supported. Women should support women and men should support women and all of that. So I wanted to bring their stories before you. And these are some phenomenal women that I am blessed to to know more about them through their books. And I pray that you will be blessed as well. So that's what the Author's Tea is. And it's where the authors spill all the tea, on their books and things. Where's your glass, girl? There you go. So I got my mug here today. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says, "I'm silently correcting your grammar." And everyone knows I am the certified grammar snob. When I see it I'm like, ooh, you're YOU''RE in place of YOUR. I can't do it. Okay. So I'm silently correcting your grammar. And sometimes I'm a little vocal about it. But anyway, super excited to chat with Shenita. I am not going to belabor this process because I want to get into all of the tea that she's going to spill on her books and things. So Shenita is the author of Divorced Now What? And she's going to get into exactly what that means. I met Shenita last year when we both were facilitating a panel down at the Black Women's Expo, a relationships panel. So that was such a great experience. And it was great to have her perspective being a divorcee and, me on the married side. I think we had some single women on the panel. So it was a really diverse panel. We had a great time, great dialogue, great conversation. So I'm excited to sit down and talk to her one-on-one and let her tell you guys more about her book. So Shenita, of course, I know a little bit about you, but for those who are just tuning in, this is their first time meeting you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. For those of you that don't know, my name is Shenita, affectionately known as Shenita Inc. on social media. I am a speaker. I am the author, as she mentioned, of the wonderful book, Divorce Now What? 7 Steps to Moving On. I am a mentor to women who are exiting relationships, be it through a breakup or divorce. I am a co host. I have a summit entitled the She Summit, where we talk about the strength, health, and evolution of the individual as well as relationships. And I am also the founder of Renew Her, which is an organization that I created to help women rebuild, rebrand, and relaunch after divorce.
Wow, I love it. So you have essentially taken your pain and turned that into a point of purpose. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I got all that in my notes and in my head and in my agenda. But I love that you're taking your situation and you're helping someone else to navigate theirs. I think that's what we all should do with everything that we go through. So listen, I want to get right into this book. I read this book. And of course, those of you who are watching know that I have not experienced divorce firsthand. But the one thing I want to say before I get into this is that this book, I felt like, especially when I was reading the first, like the introduction and maybe like the first 2 chapters or so, I felt like there was something in here to take away from, even if you have not been through divorce. I feel like if you've ever experienced the loss of anything, because essentially divorce is losing a marriage or your marriage dying. So if you've ever had to grieve anything or you've ever lost anything, I felt like there was really some key principles that even you could take away without being a divorcee. So I applaud you on that because it's useful to everyone, I think. So I want to start with a quote that I read on page 11 that really stuck out to me. And you can see I got all my little tabs in here.
I see that.
You said, if God allowed your marriage to end in divorce, it's because he has purpose for your pain and someone else for you who is a much better fit. Truth is, some people saw warning signs before marriage but ignored them in hopes that that person would change, only to have been taught the hard lesson that so many of us have learned, and that is what you see is what you get. How many of us sought God in his direction for us regarding our mate? Usually, when we see someone we consider interesting and pursue them without consulting God first. Others were so anxious to be married that they said yes to the first person willing to ask for their hand in marriage without checking into that person's track record or relationship history, which could have influenced their decision. So I was like, that's right, girl. You better tell them, because I know so many. I do. I know people personally who I feel like just kind of jumped at marriage because they were just thrilled with the fact that someone was willing to marry them, and just kind of ignored all the signs. But I want to kind of start with the background of your your marriage experience. And please know, I know that this is a very sensitive topic that we're speaking about on the Author's Tea. So if I ask you anything that you're not comfortable with answering, please feel free to just let me know, like, no, let's move on. Totally okay with that. But how long were you married, and what was that experience like for you?
So I was with my ex-husband for 20 years and we were married for 16. We actually met freshman year of college. And of course, being young, it was fun. It was exciting. It was new. And, marriage, I think, is a beautiful thing. And I don't regret it in one bit. Like, not one bit do I regret it. So that pretty much was my experience with that.
Okay. So I know in the book you said that you basically did everything to try to keep your marriage together. What does that everything look like for you?
So my everything consisted of prayer. First and foremost, as a Christian, I constantly kept my prayer before, I'm sorry, my marriage before the Lord in prayer. I prayed, I fasted, I sought counseling, both spiritual as well as, you know, non-Christian counselors. I would find myself up late watching TBN, calling the 1-800 prayer lines. I clearly remember one night after a huge argument, I waited for him to go to sleep, and I took a bottle of oil and I
Rub them
I
down.
was anointing his head, honey, anointing the drawers with his, underwear in it. I even got to the point where it was right after a sermon that my pastor at that time taught. I literally went outside, and it was definitely late, like midnight, if not later. And I did what I call the Jericho March around my home, where I literally walked like 7 times. And when that walk was finished, I, just started to praise God because I believed in faith that the actions that I had taken were enough to salvage my marriage, and of course I tried talking, some things that we don't do. I tried to have that communication, and I tried to, speak the concerns that I had, hoping that, he would openly share the ones that he had with me as well. So those are just some of the things that I did to try and save my marriage.
Wow. So you were like attacking it from the spiritual side, from the physical side, just everything, trying to hold it together to no avail. One of the things that I remember reading in the book is that you felt like you stayed long after maybe you should have been gone because you were trying to prove something to the naysayers, or and maybe you lost yourself in that.
Mhm.
Why did you find yourself in a place of staying somewhere trying to prove other people wrong?
Well, just because my ex-husband and I had children out of wedlock. So although we were together, we were not married when we had our children. And so it was almost as if you were trying not to have another situation that the church frowned upon. You had babies
Mhm.
out of wedlock, and now here
Mhm.
you go trying to cover up that with a marriage, and oh,
Yeah.
that marriage didn't last. And so now you're divorcing. And so I say, because I didn't want to be another statistic. I
Yeah.
didn't want to be the one who experienced children out of wedlock, and let's just throw in a divorce with it. Like, who, me?
Mhm.
Like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I can do this. We can work this out. And the reality of it was,
You got a divorce?
we got
That's the reality.
divorced.
I mean, which clearly is what happened because you wrote this book, Divorce Now. But so,
Right.
you touched on the church. I want to really spend a little time there because I know that so many of us who are Christians,
Hmm.
we find ourselves because we feel like God hates divorce.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves sticking it out for the sake of upholding our Christian beliefs. Did
Hmm.
you find yourself in that place? Was it like hugely based a lot on your spiritual beliefs, that you kind of felt stuck, or you were committed to making it work even though you felt like it just was over?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Um, I often, when I thought about divorce, I was so convicted at just the very thought of it. How can you be a Christian and you're having thoughts, regular thoughts of filing for divorce? Where
Wow.
is your faith?
Mhm.
And you hear scriptures about just having faith the size of a mustard seed. And so the thoughts of not having enough faith, not believing God, not praying hard enough, not having a strong life of intercession, prayer life where you not just prayed but you interceded, which
Mhm.
is, of course, as we know, are two different levels and dimensions
Yes.
of prayer. And so I got to the point where I was conflicted. Do you believe God? Do you believe God, or do you take a L in this marriage? And when my husband and I separated, um, I had to have an honest talk with myself. And the honest the results that came as a result of the honest conversation that I was having was, I stayed in my marriage because we had two children. We
Mhm.
had not just two children, but two male children
Yeah.
who I felt needed their dad. I did
Mhm.
not want to be that single mom raising her children in Chicago and risk the possibilities of what they will turn out to be because
Mhm.
their dad wasn't, living inside the home. And I had to come to terms with the fact that whether we're together or not, that doesn't change. It shouldn't change their relationship.
Right.
Just like I'm their mother, he also is their father, and we both have a responsibility to parent, this blessing that the Lord had given us in the form of two sons. And so I had to be honest with myself. Why you're saying it's because of the kids? Why then are you really staying? And
Mhm.
the honest conversation resulted in, because I didn't want to be alone.
You don't want to be alone. Wow. And I think one thing to really drive that point home, with the children, is that your children need to see you and their father in a healthy relationship.
Mhm.
And if you've gone past that and you feel like there's no coming back from that, then in my opinion, and again, I've never been in the seat of divorce, but I do think that it does more harm staying in that relationship for your children than you do in helping them. Like, and I know a lot of us, that's our thoughts, like, let me just stay in this because of the children. But it turns to be detrimental at some point because they're not seeing you. And children, I don't know how old your boys were at the time, but children are extremely intelligent. I know sometimes we don't give them enough credit. Like, they know what's going on. They know when things aren't right with their parents. I mean, I have a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old knows when mommy and daddy are mad at each other. She's like, are you guys still mad? And she doesn't have to hear anything, but it's just they can pick up on that. So I think that that's so important to even consider that your children need to see you, in a happy and healthy, loving relationship.
Absolutely, they do, because the home is the training ground.
Mhm.
That's where they're learning how to love, what love looks like, and
Mhm.
so whatever they were learning that was opposite, they will grow up and they will repeat in their own relationships, in
Yeah.
their own marriages. And that wasn't what I wanted for my children. I'm raising them to be, men of God, men of honor, men of integrity, men of character, men of
Yeah.
standard, men of valor. Those are the traits and the attributes that you want your children to have. But if the home life isn't reflecting that, you can't be surprised when they grow up and they're stealing, killing, robbing,
Right.
male
Right.
whores, and the list goes on. They will model what they see, and whatever that is. You can't
Mhm.
all of a sudden be surprised, like, I can't believe they're that way.
Right.
There's something that they saw in the home
Mhm.
growing up,
Mhm.
or that they were exposed to, that led to what you see today. And we have now adults that are needing to be rewired because
Yes.
of the things that they were exposed to
Yes.
as children.
Wow. Wow. Well, for you in your personal relationship, maybe with your sons, did you see any adverse impact? Like, did they come out unscathed? I mean, do you feel like overall the divorce was not as detrimental for them as you may have imagined, on the other side?
Absolutely. After the dissolution of our marriage,
Hmm.
I went for counseling, but I also made sure that I got my children counseling as well. I
Yes.
made sure that they saw counselors. So we had our individual sessions and we also had our group sessions. And I was so surprised to hear both of my sons, have the same response. Oh,
Wow.
I'm good. I
I'm
was
good.
wondering what took you so long. And what? And so while I'm thinking I'm staying in this relationship, for them,
Wow.
secretly they're
Mm.
like,
It's
Mom,
time to go. We're like,
what?
what are you waiting on?
Yeah,
Wow.
they're wanting to put fire to my feet, like, hello, let me help you put a move on it. And they're okay. And
Hmm.
I have I have since my oldest son has graduated college. My
Wow.
youngest son is now in his second year of college, and they are doing well. They are doing amazing. And our bond is closer than it has ever been before.
Wow. Well, congratulations, Mom. Great job.
Thank you, thank you. To God be the glory, honey.
Yes. Amen. Amen. All right. So, in your book, Divorced Now What? You share with us 7 steps to moving on.
Hmm.
And before I get into that, I want to read another quote which really resonated with me. It said, "This life changing event could very well be one of the greatest moments in your life and serve as a launching pad into your destiny." What do you think the pain of divorce taught you?
The pain of divorce taught me how to love me. I spent so many years pouring into my husband at that time, pouring into my children, working so hard to have an image of what a successful marriage can look like if you marry young and stick together. But inside, there was conflict because I knew what behind the scenes looked like, because I knew what I had to suffer in silence to have the image of what I portrayed in public. And
Mhm.
so divorce taught me to be me and be okay with it. And what that looks like for me is I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. I got a little hood in me and I can go there real quick. But I'm also a college graduate. I'm
Mhm.
also saved. and I
Mm-hmm.
know how to balance the two. And divorce has freed me to the point where I can embrace the hood Nita. I can embrace the classy Nita. I can engage in conversations where, I'm having intellectual conversations and not be intimidated because I'm no longer hiding behind the man, i.e., husband. But
Right.
now it's time, it became time for me to embrace me and be okay with children out of wedlock, be
Mm-hmm.
okay with having a divorce under my belt, be okay with having to leave a home and start all over again. And it is what it is. You
Mm-hmm.
can't hide it, you can't deny it, but what you can do is you can embrace it, you can pick it up, and you can move forward, expecting and believing that the best days are not just here now, but they're greater in those that are to come.
Girl, look, I'm about to raise you an offering. Look,
Well,
drop your
uh,
cash apps.
she hurt. Shenita Inc. Hashtag now.
Look, you brought your green cup for money, okay?
Yes, ma'am. My favorite
Drop her
color.
offering.
Hmm.
Wow, wow. I love that. I love that the pain of divorce got you to a place of loving who you are and being Shanita unapologetically. Like you said, you've embraced all of those things now. Like this is who I am, and it's like it or leave it. Um, okay, so let's talk about these 7 steps to help you
Okay.
move on after divorce. You got those in this book, Divorce Now What. I keep showing it so they can know where to go get it and what it looks like. But so the 7 steps you have are reflect on the past, forgiveness, let it go, renew the mind, self-care, relaunch, and pray about it. And one of the things that I love in the book is that after each step, you have something to do. I love action. Like I feel like we talk so much and then there's no
Yes.
action. Like I can tell you how to do everything. And which is why like when I work with people, I'm like, let's get you an action plan. You need to be doing something. And so I love that about this book because after each step, there's either like a journal, some space to journal, or you have prayers to pray or surveys to take and assessments. And so I love that because in essence, you're saying to in order to move on after divorce, the 7 steps to moving on after divorce, you have to do the work. You
Yes.
cannot expect that it's just going to come to you and fall into your lap. So out of those 7 steps, well, let me ask you this first. How did you discover these steps? Like, how did you realize that this is what it took for you to get through what you were going through?
So after my divorce, I spent a year where I did not date. I did not entertain any conversations from men. I needed to heal.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to find out who I was after, after this marriage. Um, the year that I divorced, well, we were separated. So the year before our divorce was final, my oldest son was entering into college. And so here I was, used to being married, being in our beautiful home, having children. And now, I was single. My oldest son is away at college. And my youngest son was doing his sports activities, which kept him away for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no choice but to sit and study me. And as I learned myself and what it took to overcome the pain and go through the process that entire year, I journaled. And so at the end of that journaling process,
Mm-hmm.
that's the summary of each season that I was in for that entire year,
Yeah.
is how I developed the steps that were required to move on.
Wow. Love it. So out of these 7 steps, was there any one that you found particularly the hardest to navigate through on your journey to moving on after divorce?
Believe it or not, the hardest one was the second step, which is forgiveness.
Oh, I know.
And
That's not hard to believe. Because let me tell you, when I read these steps, I said, I'm sure this would have been the hardest one for me. So that's not hard to believe at all.
but here's the catch though to the forgiveness step. In that chapter, I
Mhm.
speak in detail about the three areas or the three people that I had to forgive. And I had to forgive my ex spouse, I had to forgive myself,
Mhm.
and I had to forgive God.
Wow.
And so
Well, let's
the
talk about that. Unpack that for me. What does that look like?
so forgiving for me to forgive my ex, I had to realize that he's human. And just like he made mistakes within our marriage, I too have made mistakes. And
Mhm.
while it felt comfortable to point the finger and highlight and magnify what he did, the truth of the matter is, if I'm true to myself about the mistakes that I've made in life, not just in
Mhm.
marriage, but in life in general,
Yes.
where I would leave church and somebody cut me off. And I promise you, I ain't say, bless you, sister. I told you I'm from the West Side. Like, what? What? You about that? What? So I had to say, work on me, Lord. Come on, Jesus. And if God tells us to love our enemies and do good to those that hate you and bless them that curse you, and I had to get to a place where I can do that to my ex, which
Mhm.
which made it easier for me to forgive him because I got off the seat of judgment and I understood mercy and
Yes.
grace. So that
Yes.
part
Mhm.
was easy when I looked at it that way. But the challenging part came when I had to forgive myself because something else about me, I'm the only child. So, in being the only child, I have a lot of conversations with myself. I'm
Mhm.
very analytical. I think, I overthink, and then I think again about just what I overthought about.
Mhm.
And I knew that some of the things that I ignored or turned blind eye to in the beginning of our marriage were some of the very things that caused the destruction of my marriage at the end.
Say that again for the people in the cheap seats. Say it
What?
again.
Hold on, let me wet my vocals so I can say it. Hold on. The same things that I saw in the beginning
Yes.
of our
Yes.
marriage. No, let me while
Before
engaged.
marriage, right?
While engaged. Because I didn't want it to be what it was. I'm thinking we're both in church. Come on, I know you know what I know, bro. We under the same church, getting the same teaching, getting the same word, thinking that things will change once we got married. And when they didn't, I had to accept the fact that I made a conscious decision with the information that the Lord allowed me to know, show things He allowed me to see, experiences He allowed me to have prior
Yeah.
to marriage, and I still did it anyway. And
Mhm.
so I had to forgive myself for making what I thought at that time was a bad judgment call.
Yeah.
You made this decision knowing what you knew, and now here you are. So that really weighed hard on me. And then I had to forgive God because I know that sounds, almost arrogant to a degree. Like, who are you? God is almighty, He's all sufficient. Like, what do you mean? But because my faith was so strong in believing that He would heal my marriage and He would save my marriage. And when that didn't happen, it weakened my faith to the point I couldn't. Not only could I not pray after my divorce, I didn't even want to listen to church music. I still went to church every Sunday, but it was something about listening to music that talked about the goodness of God. My heart wasn't ready to receive because, God, why didn't you save my marriage?
Yes. Yes.
So I had to you know, forgive him and forgive for being disrespectful to him after that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
who are
Mhm.
you to question the sovereign God?
Yeah.
He makes no mistakes.
I really appreciate you for sharing that because even if a lot of us don't want to admit it, we have found ourselves there, like being very angry with God because we felt like He did not do what we wanted Him to do. Like I prayed to you. I was doing everything. I was living right. I was serving you. I was trusting and believing that you were going to do this thing. And then you didn't do it. So guess what? I'm like, I got my back to you. I haven't walked away. And sometimes in worst case scenarios, we do walk away. But but we may just turn our back and like, I'm just not talking to you. I'm pouting. I'm in my fit. And God is so gracious. He's like,
Yes,
okay,
Lord.
when you get through, I'm going to be right here waiting on you with open arms. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm waiting for you to come back. But I really appreciate you sharing that, because so many of us find ourselves in that place. And it may not even be anything as tumultuous as divorce. It can be something as simple as, I thought you were going to give me this job. I went to these 5 interviews back to back to back. I thought I had it in the bag, and you took it away from me, and you knew that I needed this, which I think is key, because maybe in that moment, like right after your divorce, you didn't realize that God had you all the time. It's like we can't see it until we're completely outside of the situation. So did you have like an aha moment at some point, like, man, God, I thank you. Thank you for getting me to this place, because I wouldn't have been able to do it alone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, definitely. Definitely. I had that aha moment. And, you have a different relationship. There's so many different names to God. And, we say all the names of God when we're praying and we're worshiping, but it's nothing like a life changing experience where you get to know him for real, for who he is in whatever that way. So for me, he became my provider like I've never known him to be. When you're married, you're kind of used to having hubby. Can you transfer some money into my account because my bad.
I'm about to get the next tip, okay?
Can you I'm at the grocery store and let me just tell you, can you, and when you don't have that,
I've been standing at the register, okay? Like, I'm gonna need you to send that money over to my account.
right. Thumb printing, let me transfer right quick, and then gotta explain later.
Yeah.
All that. And so, but now I have to spend differently. I have to think differently when it comes to finances and money, because as a single mom, if I don't have it, I can't give it. And
Mhm.
so I have to make different choices. But I also know that God is my ultimate provider, and
Yeah.
he sees the need before it even arises. And so he's always making a way and making provision. And again, so that's just one of the ways that I got to know him better.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that God had a hold on me where he wouldn't let me go. You know what I'm saying? Even though I'm over there pouting, you coulda and you shoulda. He
Mhm.
still had a hold on me. Okay, Nita, I'm gonna give you a minute with your spoiled self.
Because you got that only child syndrome.
I got it, bad. I do. Help me, Jesus, Lord. I'm working. I'm a work in progress. I will admit I'm a work in progress.
Wow. Well, I think that your journey has been amazing. Of course, I didn't know you then, but just to see and hear what you're sharing on how you got to this place of healing. And I love that, again, you wrote this book. Like, what motivated you to write this book how long after you were divorced and you went through your healing process were you able to put out Divorce Now What?
Well, what prompted me to write the book is because the moment that I released my divorce on social media, I was amazed at the number of women and men that inboxed me about problems that they were having in their marriage. And I was like, but you just put on social media how this your Woman Crush Wednesday and Bay don't play and we together, hey. I mean, all the fancy words they say, I don't even know. But and I was just like, wow, people are really suffering in silence.
Yes.
And they desire to get, they want to exit these unhealthy, toxic relationships, but they too felt the same pressure that I felt of having to raise children alone, not, going from a two to a one parent household, having to, explain it to the church, especially if you're leaders in the church. So there was so much there was such a struggle that people were having and are still having, because the inboxes are still coming. The
Mhm.
I see you in a grocery store. Oh my God, can I ask you a question, sis? How
Yeah.
did you? And so knowing that if I was going through it, truly there had to be someone else. So when I sat down to write this book, Divorce Now What, I wrote a book that I wished was available when I was going through my
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
because of, the anger, the fear, the sadness, the what could be borderline depression and loneliness that you experience as a result of divorce. I felt all of that while I was in my marriage. Some people don't experience it until afterwards. But when it got towards the end of my marriage, that's when I experienced those different emotions. So when I got a divorce, I was dang near ready. Like, okay, you know what? Let's just get it over. And
Mhm.
although we were, separated for a brief, very, very, very brief period before the divorce actually took place, it was something about hearing the judge hit the gavel that said it was finished, and it was just like it was
How
really
the gavel got
finished.
on the court on the cover. I noticed that. I saw the gavel and the rings. I said, "Oh, this is like final. Like it is.
Yes.
It's over." Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so when I heard that, I was just like, like it became so
That's right.
surreal. It was breathtaking. And I described it in the book. It was as if the everything around me. And if you've ever been in a courtroom, you know how sometimes it can be a little loud with typing and paper shuffling, and it was just like immediate silence. And I just felt like the room just sort of, started spinning, and I need to gather myself. So again, with those other emotions I felt in my while I was married, but after I took that year to heal, to heal and to learn the importance of self-love, it was like, okay, so what do I do now? Hence,
Hmm.
divorce now what?
Wow. Did you
And
find it difficult to to share your story, to write and share it? Being so transparent.
you know, um, of course, because it's never my intent to bring any type of exposure or
Hmm. Hmm.
information out about my ex-husband, because at the end of the day, he's still my children's father. And
Yeah.
I made the conscious decision to marry him. I stood before God and man and said, I do. Now, whatever happened from the beginning to the end, it was what it was. So
Hmm.
I needed to write a book that was not, you know, and written in a way to bash, but to inspire others who are going through it to say, hey, guess what? Divorce is real. It
Yeah.
happens. It's a life-changing event, but it doesn't stop. It's just a chapter in your
Yeah.
book. Your
Yeah.
journey continues. And sister and brother, you can get off the sidelines of watching everyone else celebrate a beautiful, fantastic love and get back into the game of life and experience a beautiful love, a beautiful marriage after divorce.
I love it. So I take it that you are open to marriage again.
Oh, absolutely. Marriage is of the Lord. And if it's right before Him, it's all good with me. I won't let that one experience keep me from what I know that He ultimately ordained for me to have. If He says that I am the apple of His eye, and He talks about His unfailing love for me, God, no, I'm the only child. Now,
So he knows what I need.
He know exactly what. I'm not going to force it. I won't rush it.
Right.
But He
Do
knows.
you think you'll go into marriage? Look, I'm all off script, but I'm just
It's
intrigued by your
okay.
story. Do
It's
you think you'll
okay.
go into marriage with apprehension because of the divorce, or have you healed to the point that you're just open to receive the love?
There will be no apprehension, because perfect love casts out fear.
You got look.
And because
I'm
perfect,
sending an offering, okay?
hilarious. And so, since perfect love casts out fear, that perfect love can only come from a perfect father.
That's right.
And when you put your expectations in man, When you put your expectations in a relationship, you can't be surprised if disappointment comes, because that is not where your hope should lie.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Beautiful. Well, there's one thing that we always ask when people come through the author's tea, because I believe that writers are readers. So, what is one of the greatest books that you've read that you would recommend to other people because it just changed your life?
Oh my goodness. I wish you would have told me, because it's right there, but I don't want to get up. Uh, so out
You can get
so
up
out
and grab it. You want to grab it? Is it close enough? You like, how far is it?
No, I'm thinking about if I stand up. But no,
Oh, yeah.
no. Oh my goodness, there are several books. But outside of the Bible, um, as a man thinketh, so is he.
Oh,
And I really, really, really love that book, and I constantly go back to it. I read it, I reread it, I stop reading and go back. Miracle Mornings. I have so many books that I love. Miracle Mornings.
mhm.
Um,
Do you practice the miracle morning?
I do.
You do all of the steps, girl. I
I
have to keep
do.
starting over again.
I love Miracle Mornings.
I do too. It's amazing. It definitely
Mhm,
changes your day and really gets you started. I think it's an
mhm.
amazing book. I just read it this year, as a matter of fact, at the beginning of the year. And I was like, okay, I like this.
Yes, 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 yes. So those are two. I mean, I have a couple, but I'll just stop there. Those are two.
Love it. All right. So tell us where we can purchase um Divorced Now What?
Okay. Thank you so much again for allowing me this opportunity. Divorce Now What can be purchased on Amazon.com. It can also be purchased on my website at www.shenita.org. And if you follow me on any of the social media platforms, Shenita_Inc. on Instagram, there's a link in my bio there. Or if you're following me on Facebook, it's at She Space Nita. And you certainly can purchase it there as well.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you for stopping through. I really appreciate you for sharing your story and basically turning your pain into a point of purpose and helping other people to navigate their pain. Those of you who are interested and have been sitting on the edge of your seat because you need to write a book, you said that 2019 was going to be your year. It is time to write that book. It is time to join the Scribe Tribe. You know, guys know the Scribe Tribe is lit. Like we have been I just one of the young ladies, and I just saw she shared a shout out to Caprice. She finished her book. I'm gonna share that in a moment when I get off of here. But the Scribe Tribe has just been pushing out authors. So we have put this formula together. We got the secret sauce. So if you are stuck and you want to publish your book, go over to bit.ly/scribe tribe and you can sign up to join us. We have a community of writers and aspiring authors and published authors. And we're just here to support you and help you on your journey. Yes.
Yay!
But I thank you guys so much for tuning in to the author's tea. You know that this is where the authors come to spill the tea on their books and things. Shenita, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. You guys go out and get her book, support her. You probably know a divorcee who could benefit from reading that book. So bless them with it. So into their healing, please. All right.
Absolutely. And if I can interject and say one
Good.
thing, although the title is Divorce Now What, I have to admit that there are just as many single women who have left relationships that read the book and benefit and learn from it as there are divorced. So don't discount because of the title Divorce Now What. As you mentioned in the beginning, there if you have experienced any loss
Yeah.
as a result, of life happening, this is a book that's filled with the steps, tools, tricks to help you move forward from the sideline to the field.
Yes, I totally agree. You guys, this is for anybody. So take my advice, take her advice, support her, and go into somebody's healing. Shenita, thank you so much. I wish you nothing but blessings and success.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
putting all the tea on your books and things. And guys, I will catch you back here same time in 2 weeks. We're on the every other week schedule now. So I'll be back in 2 weeks with our next author, who is Janina Johnson, I believe. And I think her book is Purpose in My Pain. We've been talking a lot about that. I think her book is entitled Purpose in My Pain. So I'll see you guys back in 2 weeks. Until next time, Kristen R. Harris, and I'm out. Bye.
Bye.